What inspired your first angel investment?
So I was off the train, number 2, second time, and I was literally watching the next generation of the web begin. And I was fascinated with Curb Media. I was reading Curb multiple times a day. I was reading Eater multiple times a day. I think one day I said to my husband, and I knew Lockhart very tangentially. I didn't really personally know him, but I met him before. And I said to my husband, it's really unfortunate that you would never invest in this company because it's not part of your thesis media at this point, but this is the future of the web. This is not going to take away from magazines. There's always going to be tactile, but that you can have this online site that is creating their own content, aggregating content, and they're being read by the consumers and the business people within that vertical. That's super interesting. And he literally came home the next day and he said, Locke is raising money, you should go talk to him. And I was like, wow. And he's like, you would be great at this. This should be your next career. You know how to build businesses, you know how to make money, and you've got a vast experience. You should do this. And I called Locke, I had lunch, I put in more money in that business than I ever would put into anything today because I didn't realize I was going to be in 130 of these businesses. And it was great. I sat on the board, I got involved, and I think all of us together sort of figured out what it meant to build a company. Locke had never built a company before. I said, you need a coach. I hooked him up with a coach. Josh, who was the CFO, basically COO, was going to law school at University of Michigan during this time. Alexis was there sort of in and out and then became full-time, and the CFO, so Josh was the COO, and we had this investor, Brad Inman, and so him and I sat on the board together, and then we sold the company to Vox, and then I helped them. At one point, the company, no one wanted to put money in, and I made sure it got money into it, which is a whole story. And then I sold half our stock when NBC wanted to put money into Vox, so we got more money out of the company, and we all still own a little piece. And then Brad has a company called Inman that he kind of went back, even though it was just spitting out money. And now Josh is the president. Locke is involved in that company, and I sit on the board of that. So we have the gangs all here again, which is really nice.
That's really great.
Yeah.
It's like a family.
It's like a family.
Yeah. I asked you about if it was always important for you to have your family, put your family first and have career and family throughout your life.
Yeah, listen, when I graduated college, I thought that, I would be running, it was Macy's at that point in my life that I'd be running it 3 or 4 years. No one ever said, here's how corporate works, here's how politics work in large companies. There was no information given to me. And I think that when I had children, I wanted to be present in their lives. And my fear was that because I was such a work person, that I would find that I wasn't paying attention to them and I was in 24/7. So, for a series of reasons, I ended up leaving this one career, which was in the retail wholesale world. And I came home for a while and I stayed with my kids, and it was amazing. We had no money. I'd go to Stu Leonard's once a month and fill up on 10 chickens that were $2.25. And I had a sewing machine and I made curtains and I painted things on the walls, and I was like Martha Stewart on crack. And then in the end, I was like, you know what, this is such an amazing opportunity, so lovely, I get to spend all this time with my children, but the reality is that it's just not enough for my head to do this. And so I need to figure out how I can feed my brain, but still make them number one.
What did that lead you to?
It ended up leading me to the beginnings of the web, and I ended up going to work the second hire, although it wasn't a hire, I freelanced at a Silicon Valley Reporter for Jason Calacanis.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I will build your company, I'll bring in all the sales, I'll be your person, and you're going to pay me this percentage of everything I sell. And we're living in the suburbs at that point, and so I was working and emailing and doing contracts and faxing, and at the same time, being home with my children and baking cookies and, while they were, hanging out in the playroom. So that's what I did.
Yeah, so you really were able to bring in both of those important things to you without sacrificing one or the other.
Yeah, and I also think what's kind of cool is like I see some of the companies that my kids and others have gone to work for, and companies that I've invested in, when someone's like, you know what, I'm gonna go work out of LA for the week because I have all these great friends from college there and I never get to see them. In my generation's like, you're like, I'll never see you again, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a relationship anymore. And you can go out and do that. Like, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna work out of my home twice a week because I can be on a Slack channel all day long, or I can even be on a Zoom and you can see me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I think the companies in this next generation have got to figure out how you make family and friends first.
Yeah. Well, did you ever doubt that you could do both?
I just did.
Yeah.
I didn't give much thought to, is it more of just like, this is how it's going to be?
There's not even the question, this doesn't even enter your awareness.
No, there was zero awareness.
As you've invested over time, right, you said now 130 companies,
Mm-hmm.
what has changed about how you look at what you're looking for when you look to consider an investment?
I think at the beginning, when I started this, it was, 2006. So technology was just starting that second generation of touching every single industry. And, if you were on top of stuff, you could be like, wow, duh, that makes complete sense. That is where we're going in the future. There's only 3 of them doing it. This one I'm talking to, I'm going to put the money in, right? Mm-hmm. So it was easier, I think, to do, and it's easy to be a generalist. Now, you can't be a generalist. There's so many companies, and there's so much competition, and there's so many that were funded then that are now like peaking. To think that you can come in and redo it again, I think is kind of silly. But the one consistent thing is it's all about the people. It's all about the people, particularly, I'd say 70% of the companies I've invested in, I was the first penny in the company, as the first investor. So it takes time, and it's all about the people. I mean, there were times where I had red flags like, that's such a brilliant idea. I'm not so sure about this founder, but such a great idea. Those didn't work. Just because it's a great idea doesn't mean that person's going to be able to pull it off. You need someone who's going to be able to, as you know, you were in venture, who's going to be able to listen, to be a leader, and be able to be flexible if it's not working at 11:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. And so now, I think I became much more aware of like, great idea, too bad it's you.
And what are the things that founders can do if they're not quite there yet?
I think a lot of this is innate, but I do think that being tenacious, being curious, and being committed and almost drinking your own Kool-Aid is the key to a really good entrepreneur. Some of them are just able to plow through walls, but I also think being able to listen, to read the room, and to be able to take all the information that is given to you, even as you move forward, be it Series A, Series B, Series C from your board. Say, I hear you, I get it, this is what we're going to do.
Yes.
And I think it's very hard for women more than it is for men. I just met with a woman the other day who's on her Series D. She's about to be getting a huge term sheet. And she has this board that's just torturing her. And, I gave her some advice on how to just cut it. And she's like, wow. And I was like, and I hate to say this, no man would put up with that bullshit.
Yeah. See if you can guess what this stands for. It's WWAMWMD.
Something women, I'm going to assume. Go for it. What is this?
What would a mediocre white man do?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. They would end up falling up the ladder.
Well, like in the case
particularly if they're good looking.
Yeah, right, and charming. But I recommend this mantra to women that go into those scenarios where it's like, how would a man handle this? And not in any sort of negative light, but just that confidence, that I hear you, but we're still gonna do this.
Exactly.
And that's what they'll say, and it'll be fine. They'll feel no guilt for it. They'll feel no remorse because it's like been conditioned generation and generation in them, and we have a little bit more of a uphill battle for that.
For sure. I've had men walk in my room that are like pitching me, and they literally don't know the answers to my questions, and they're just pretending as they go along, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's just unbelievable. Like, what a skill. Like, there's no way you guys are ever raising money, but that you could actually just behave in that manner. Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, I lived in Silicon Valley for 4 years, and it was just like,
Oh my God.
like, are you like, is this satire? Like, are you serious? Like, this is really what you're doing? And the confidence is just like radiating. I'm like, I don't. But for me, I find humor in it. Do you have a morning routine?
Oh yeah.
What's your morning routine?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm working out, which I work out for, Monday, like 4 days a week, I get up in the morning, I check my, my phone, my email, turn on the coffee machine, take the dog for a walk, come back, make breakfast, post, read through, clean up my email box, read the New York Times cover to cover, do the crossword, and then I go work out.
And is that the whole day?
That's the morning.
That's the morning.
Oh, that's before I go work out.
That's like an incredible routine.
That's a routine. And
family and your career, like what do you do for you? Are there elements of your morning routine that are really, kind of part of self-care and making sure that you're taking care of yourself?
the crossword.
The crossword.
It's a daily routine.
What does it like give to you?
A, it keeps your mind active.
Yeah.
And you get better at them. And B is, you're just absorbed in that.
Yeah.
And you're not doing anything else. You're just trying to solve a puzzle.
Yeah, normal.